Hi, my name is Frank White and welcome to another episode of Photography Tips and Reviews. In today's episode, I am going to talk about the EF 16-35mm F2.8L II USM ultra wide angle zoom lens. Now, before I get started talking about this lens, I should mention that Canon has released the 16-35mm F2.8L III Lens. In fact, it's actually, today is September 14th, 2016, and that lens is set to start shipping on October 31st, 2016. So if you're interested in the new version, the Mark III version of this lens, then go ahead and place your order now. You can probably place it at B&H Photo, or you can Google Amazon or any of the usual suspects. You can order that lens. Okay, so with that, you're probably asking, well, why are you just now reviewing the Mark II version? Well, before I get my hands on the Mark III version, I do want to go ahead and give you my opinion of the Mark II version. And what I can tell you about the Mark II version is that this is a solid lens, has a real good feeling to it because this casing is just full of glass, and just by the weight of it, you can tell that it's packed full of glass. The casing is plastic. I would have liked to have seen a metal casing, but it is what it is. We know with the polycarbonates they put in plastic these days, that plastic is gonna last a good long time. This lens was introduced in 2007, so it really is time for the Mark III version to supplant this lens. Put it back on. It does have autofocus with full-time manual focus override. Now, it is internal focusing, which means that all the focusing is done inside this barrel. However, the outer barrel is not sealed, so you can see it moving, even though the barrel doesn't telescope when you changing the focus. However, even though this lens is said to be fully weather sealed, it really isn't fully weather sealed, because if you're using it outside and you got it up and rain started to collect in the bottom of it in this area here, and it's dialed back, then you can see how water could probably seep into the lens. So it's recommended to make it fully weather sealed, to use a 82mm diameter filter on it, a UV filter or a circular polarizer, to complete the weather sealing for this lens. It really is a nice lens. Now, as far as the focal length goes, 16-35mm, I feel like it falls somewhere between the 11-24mm lens, which is a $3,000 lens, well actually $2,900, and the 17-40mm lens, which is an older lens. Its release date is 2003, but you can pick that lens up new from Canon, I believe, for around $750 or $749. So even though the 17-40 is a real old lens, it's still in production. And again, this lens, I think, kind of fill the middle, but the Mark II version will be retired by the Mark III version. Now, I suspect that Canon still will continue to sell the Mark II version until any remaining inventory is run out. And right now, the Mark II version is selling for $1,449 really $1,450. And the Mark III version is $2,200 or $22,199. So I'm not going to round down, of course. But no mention of a lens is complete without some of the specifications. And this lens, well, before I start with the specifications, I want to talk a little bit about this flowering lens hood that is not quite round. I think it kind of mirrors the diameter of the sensor. Since the sensor is rectangle, then rather than having a round lens hood, this one is wider horizontally than it is vertically. And that's so that once you put it on and you dial it down to 16 millimeters, then you won't see the sides of the lens when you actually are using it. Now, I had mentioned earlier that this lens has a real solid feel. It's 1.4 pounds or 640 grams. It's the edge of it, the outer side, is 4.4 inches, and the barrel portion is 3.3 inches for anybody who would find that information useful. As you know, I already mentioned that it does have an 82-inch front diameter, so you'd need a 82 inch, an 82 millimeter front diameter, so you'd need a 82 millimeter filter for it if you decide to get a filter. Completely water sealed, I already mentioned that. It does have a 7-blade aperture as opposed to the newer lenses, which have an 8-blade aperture. And even as wide as it is capable of producing some bokeh, but overall, most people wouldn't expect to get decent bokeh from a lens this wide. And the constant 2.8 aperture makes this a rather fast lens for a ultra wide angle zoom. So I'm going to show you some pictures that I've made with this lens. So sit back and enjoy them.
He's just a player. Oh, he's just a player. Oh, he's just a player. Whoa. Yeah. I'm trying to.
So I hope I've been able to give you some really good information about the lens, the EF 16-35mm F2.8L II USM lens. If you like this information, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I kind of use that as my barometer to determine how well I'm presenting you with this information. And if you would go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not already done so, then you will become a part of this community of photographers for photographers. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I read them all. If you're going to shoot anybody today, shoot them with a Canon or a camera of your choice. And remember, guys, keep shooting no matter what.